Assalamualaikum. Today I'll talk about planning, writing, and completing business messages. Understanding the three-step writing process. Describe the three-step writing process. The three-step writing process consists of 3 steps which comprise of planning, writing, and completing. Now, the three-step writing process helps ensure that your communication efforts are effective, that you meet the needs of the audiences, that you are efficient and you save audiences time because you've written and formatted your writing piece in such a way where it's easy to read. The three-step writing process has different components. So under planning, you have analyzed the situation, gather information, choose medium and channel, organize the information, write, adapt to your audience, compose the message, complete, revise the message, produce the message, proofread the message, and distribute the message. So when you analyze the situation, you define your purpose and develop an audience profile. Who is your audience going to be? When you gather information, you determine audience's needs and obtain the information necessary to satisfy those needs. You choose the medium and channel that best suits the expectations of the audience. You organize the information by having your main idea written, limit your scope. You don't have to write on everything and anything. Select the direct to indirect approach. Do you want to go directly or indirectly through your messages? And outline your content. When you adapt to your audience, you have to realize that you're not writing for yourselves, but you're writing for an audience. So who is your audience? You need to have a you attitude. You need to be polite. You must have etiquette, right? You must be positive and you must use unbiased language. You want to build a strong relationship with your audience by establishing your trustworthiness, your credibility, and projecting your company's preferred image. You need to control your style with a conversational tone, plain English, and appropriate voice. When you compose the message, depending on the culture, choose appropriate words, whether they're strong words or otherwise, that will help you create effective sentences and coherent paragraphs. So the paragraphs must be united. They can't be written at random. When you revise the message, evaluate content and review readability. Is it easy to read? Edit and rewrite for conciseness and clarity. You should be using fewer vocabulary to mean a lot of things. Meaning to say, if your vocabulary were good, you don't have to be wordy in your sentences. Produce the message. Use effective design elements, right? So usually it's not very gimmicky, right? It's not fancy looking, yeah, in business writing. And suitable layout for a clean professional appearance. Some organizations may have particular, specific templates. Other organizations may not, right? So proofread the message. Make sure that there are no errors in the layout and the spelling and the mechanics. Distribute the message. How would your audience prefer the message to be distributed? So choose the right channel and make sure that all documents and all relevant files are distributed successfully. Optimizing your writing time. The more you use the three-step process, the more intuitive and automatic it will be. Yeah, so it'll become like second nature. It'll be the same as you eating, sleeping. Yeah, it'll become very habitual. Yeah, reserve half of your time for planning, a quarter of your time for writing, and a quarter of your time for completing a message. So thoughtful planning is necessary to make sure you provide the right information in the right format to the right people. Define your purpose, whether it's general or it's specific. You've got to define your purpose, right? So general purposes would be to inform, to persuade, to collaborate. Specific purposes, ask ourselves, what is it that we want to achieve, we want to accomplish with our messages? So ask these 4 questions. Will anything change as a result of your message? Is your purpose realistic? Is the time right? Is your purpose acceptable to your organization? Using audience analysis, you can plan a message, As you can see here, you have the primary audience. Yeah, you identify your primary audience. You have the size and geographic distribution. To whom are you going to be sending the messages to? You have the composition. Yeah, so meaning to say, what sort of background do these people have? You have to gauge, you have to measure their level of understanding. You have to decide, identify their expectations and preferences. If you don't know, ask them. Ask their people. You need to anticipate, guess, infer what their probable reaction would be. Yeah, so you don't want them to have, of course, a negative reaction. Gathering audience information. Discuss information gathering options for simple messages and identify 3 attributes of quality information. So simple messages, you may have all the information you need. Complex messages, you might need to do some research and analysis before you begin writing. So you may have all the information that you need, yeah? But sometimes, of course, when you write complex messages, you would need to do some research and analysis. Providing required information. You can adopt a journalistic approach: the who, what, when, where, and why, and how. Make sure the information is accurate. Quality and quantity of information important. Double check everything. Be sure the information is ethical. Be sure the information is relevant. So when you use the 5Ws and 1H, the information you give out will be more comprehensive. Yeah, you've looked at the different perspectives. The medium is the form a message takes, and the channel is the system used to deliver the message. So you have to select the best combination of media and channel. So remember that the medium is the form a message takes, and the channel is the system used to deliver the message. So the most common media and channel options, the simplest way to categorize media choices is to divide them into oral, written, and visual. So each can be delivered through digital and non-digital channels. So you have the medium being oral, yeah, and the channels in person. So you're physically there. So there are advantages and disadvantages, right? So of course, advantages is when it's an interpersonal, face-to-face communication, you can provide immediate feedback, you can gauge feedback. Yeah, you can measure feedback, you can accept feedback, you can adapt your communication to suit the feedback, right? The disadvantage is it restricts participation to those physically present, meaning to say that for those who don't go beyond, for those who are not there, you simply can't communicate to them, or they can't communicate to you, right? So they have to physically be there. So when you talk about oral and digital, you can provide opportunity for immediate feedback, right? There's the opportunity for immediate feedback, but yeah, because it's, of course, it's still, you're still communicating, although digitally, right? So it could be a live phone session or online conversations, and it's not restricted this time to participants in the same location because it's digital. But of course, there's the lack of nonverbal cues other than the voice inflections and the emphasis you use in your voice. Because if you use Google Meet or Zoom, people can only see you, like, only a certain part of you, and it's practically your face and your shoulders, and they can't see, usually people don't gesture much, isn't it? Yeah, online. And and there is, of course, the risk of being disconnected, so that's also a problem. So the thing is, trying to understand what you're trying to say is can be quite difficult, right? And there could be crackling and a lot of disruptions with regards to technology and the issues that surround it. So written and printed, yeah, allow readers to plan and control their messages. Writers to plan. Writers can control and plan and control their messages because it's written, right? So there's nothing spontaneous about it. You will spend 50% of your time planning anyway. It can reach geographically dispersed audiences, although not as easily as digital. Of course, you have to also wait for it to be mailed, isn't it? The disadvantages are offer limited opportunities for timely feedback. Yeah, timely feedback. You can't exactly provide feedback to the letter immediately, isn't it? You have to write, then mail it. So it takes time. It lacks the rich nonverbal cues provided by oral media, right? So you can't make sense non-verbally, isn't it, through the written piece that you've read. Written digital, all the advantages of written printed documents, yeah, are incorporated here. Plus, it can be delivered quickly. Offers the flexibility of multiple formats and channels from microblogs to wikis. Disadvantages can be limited in terms of reach and capability. You need someone's email address. If not, you can't send the message. You need internet or mobile phone connectivity, or you can't send the message. Visual printed can convey complex ideas and relationships quickly, yeah, because it's visual. It's easier to interpret. You can interpret something complex easily. They're often less intimidating than long blocks of text. Disadvantages can require artistic skills to design. They're complicated, yeah. Visuals can be complicated to design. It requires some technical skills to create. I mean, it takes time to visualize, right? To turn something written into visual form. Of course, it requires a little bit of imagination. I mean, you will see that the written form will be very elaborate, and then when somebody visualizes the visual form and turns it into a visual, into an infographic, for example, some information is lost in translation, right? In translating it from words to visuals, because it's basically, of course, everybody will selectively pay attention to some parts. They will identify parts of the written piece which they think are important, and others may not think so. Some others may think that just by putting the main points, that's not enough. You have to put more than that, more details. It really depends. There's that mismatch between what the person visualizing feels is important and the person reading it feels is important. Visual digital in general, all the advantages of visual printed documents and all the advantages of written digital formats. Plus, you can personalize and enhance the experience for audience members, but it requires time, cost, and skills to create. Can require large amounts of bandwidth to distribute because the files can be big. So when it's in printed form, obviously, you print the infographic, for example, and post it, you stick it onto the notice board. It's yeah, people go by and they can read it easily, but digitally, of course, you would have to email. Okay, good organization benefits your audiences by helping them accept your message in less time. So that's the whole idea. When you have a good organization, it would help, it benefits your audiences. Right. Defining your main idea, of course, you need to have the general purpose, as you can see here, to inform, to persuade, to collaborate, and a specific purpose for each, right? So what exactly do you want to get by conveying this information? You want to teach. What's your real objective, isn't it? What are the details surrounding the objective, the general purpose that you have in mind? So you want to teach customer service reps how to edit and expand the technical support wiki, right? Example of topic is technical support wiki. Example of main idea is, of course, the thesis statement. So careful, thorough edits and additions to the wiki help the entire department provide better customer service. You want to convince by persuading. You want to solicit ideas through collaborations, yeah. And these are the different specific purposes and topics and main ideas. As you can see, they are different because of the general purpose themselves. So something, a piece, a communication piece, a written piece, or an oral presentation that is supposedly to persuade, it will not be there to teach, right? It won't be there to solicit ideas, because you're there to persuade, you're there to convince. Two options between direct and indirect approaches. Direct approach starts with the main idea and follows with supporting points and evidence, right? Indirect approach starts with reasoning, evidence, and background information builds up to the main idea. So the indirect approach is used when your audience is slightly skeptical or hostile. They won't be positive towards what you have to communicate. You need to convey negative information and you want to persuade people. Organizing your thoughts, of course, you can see that this is reflective of the content outline that you're supposed to be doing. So you have the first major point, the second major point, right, and so forth, and the subpoints and the examples and evidence. There are 6 types of detail. One is facts and figures. An example is sales are strong this month. We have 2 new contracts worth $5 million and a good chance of winning another worth $2.5 million. Right? So you have facts and figures. There are numbers there. Example or illustration, we spent 4 months trying to hire recent accounting graduates, but so far only 1 person has joined our firm. One candidate told me she would love to go to work for us, but she can get $10,000 more a year elsewhere. So that would be an example of a candidate, right? So description would be like basically a lot of details. Yeah, so upscale hamburger restaurants target burger lovers who want more than the convenience and low prices of a fast food burger. These places feature more adventurism menus, a great range of toppings, and a more sophisticated atmosphere. So that describes the places, the hamburger restaurants, and right. So next you can have storytelling, and this would be like on Rita, who took over as CEO. She faced a tough choice: shut down the tablet PC division entirely, or outsource manufacturing to lower costs while keeping the division alive. So her story. Reference to authority, you refer to someone important, right? So Jackie has been in charge of that plant for the past 6 years. Jackie Lohman. Visual aids, you use graphs, charts, tables, infographics, data visualization, photos, video, and so forth. Writing business messages. Adapting to your audience. Readers and listeners are more likely to respond positively when they believe messages address their concerns. Adopting the you attitude is to focus on the reader's needs by demonstrating genuine interest. So instead of this, Tuesday is the only day that can promise quick response to purchase order requests. We're swamped the rest of the week, right? So instead of that, because it focuses on you, isn't it, the sender. But if you focus on the audience, or you have a you attitude, that it means that you're focusing on the audience. If you need a quick response, isn't it? You, the audience, please submit your purchase order request on Tuesday. You're not saying that that's the only time where you can process it quickly. You're saying that, if you need a quick response. So that's the focus of this. At Construction Resources, we are proud to supply the highest rated engineered wood in the entire Midwest. So again, it's better to write, ensure the integrity of your building projects. If you'd like your building projects to be produced with integrity, then use the highest rated engineered wood in the entire Midwest. And of course, your construction resources company can provide this. But the focus is on you, the audience. So you need to maintain standards of etiquette, politeness. You must be polite in your communication. So instead of this, once again, you've managed to bring down the website through your incompetent programming. Sounds very angry, like a very angry person communicating. Write this: let's review the last website update to explore ways to improve the process. Instead of this, you've been sitting on our order for 2 weeks and we need it now, right? Write this: our production schedules depend on timely delivery of parts and supplies, but we have not yet received the order scheduled for delivery 2 weeks ago. Please, be polite. Please respond today with a firm delivery commitment. Emphasizing the positive. When you communicate negative news without being negative, euphemisms are phrases that convey your message without carrying negative connotations. Avoid usage to hide the truth. So instead of this, the problem with this department is a failure to control costs. Write this: the performance of this department can be improved with tighter cost controls. So you're being positive, right? You failed to provide all the necessary information on the previous screen. Instead, you write, please review the items marked in red so that we can process your order as quickly as possible. So there's the please there. There's the whole idea of improving the department, right? And, processing your order as quickly as possible, please, yeah, review the items marked in red so that you can provide us with all the necessary information for us to process your order. So that's the whole idea, being positive. Use bias-free language. Use bias-free language because it will establish a good relationship with our audience by appearing fair. So language bias tends to stigmatize people, right? It tends to label people in a negative way. It highlights certain genders or persons with disabilities in a negative way, or certain races, right, in a stereotypical way, and certain ages, isn't it, right, in a negative way perhaps. So we don't want that. So we have using words containing man, man-made, mankind. There's that focus on man when it's preferable to say artificial, synthetic, humanity, works, yeah, instead of manpower, workers, workforce, businessman, business person, isn't it, that encompasses both genders: salesman, sales rep, salesperson, foreman, supervisor. Use female gendered words. Using female gender words would make you focus more on the female rather than the and have nothing to do with the male, isn't it? Yeah. So actress, stewardess. Instead of that, use actor, flight attendant, because it's more inclusive. Using special designations, woman doctor, right? So just say doctor, nurse, instead of male nurse. Using he to refer to everyone, the average worker he. So instead of just focusing on he and then being biased towards men, you need to say he or she or they. Identifying roles with gender. The typical executive spends 4 hours of his day. We don't want that. We want his or her day, or most executives spend 4 hours in a day. So you're encompassing all genders. The consumer she, the consumers they. Bias wording. The nurse or teacher she, instead say nurses or teachers they. Identifying women by marital status, Mrs. Instead of that, you can say Maria Lindstrom or Ms. Maria Lindstrom, which doesn't quite identify them clearly. Okay, some people do not like to be identified clearly. If they indicate that they're okay with it, then do so. Norm Lindstrom and Miss Drake, right, is biased because it's not very consistent as well, isn't it? Norm Lindstrom and Maria Drake, or Mr. Lindstrom and Miss Drake. So why is it's the male person is not given a title, whereas the female person, Miss Drake, is. So Norm is not given this title. Racial and ethnic bias, assigning stereotypes. Not surprisingly, Xing Tung Yao excels in math, so she's Chinese, obviously. Or this person's Chinese. I'm not sure whether it's a girl or guy, but you're saying that because this person's Chinese, it's not surprising that he or she excels in maths. Now, you can't say that because you're being stereotypical, and not all Chinese people are good at maths, right? So identifying people by race or ethnicity. Italian American. What do you need to identify? The person being Italian American. If there's no need to, then why are we doing this? Also have age bias, where you include age when it's not relevant, right? So you state here Mary Kirazi 58, and is that relevant? Is that important information? You could have just written Mary Kirazi has just joined our trust department. You don't have to create gossip, really. Disability bias examples: putting the disability before the person, focuses on the disability rather than the person. So you need to write disabled workers face many barriers on the job. An epileptic Tracy has no trouble doing her job. Now, these are the wrong ways to write them on these people. You need to write it in such a way where you focus on the workers with physical disabilities, and then only highlight the disability. Right, so Tracy's epilepsy, that is her disability. You write Tracy first and epilepsy second, so that you don't focus on the disability. Adapting to your audience, build strong relationships, right? You need to identify 7 characteristics that build and maintain a communicator's credibility. Now, credibility is a measure of your believability based on how reliable you are and how much trust you evoke in others. Your believability, how trustworthy, how dependable are you, right? How reliable you are, and how much trust you evoke in others. Characteristics: honesty, objectivity, awareness of audience needs, credentials, knowledge and expertise, endorsements, yeah, performance, sincerity. So all of these are characteristics of your credibility. When you have when you're honest, you're objective, you're aware of the audience's needs, you have qualifications, right? Expertise, you have knowledge, yeah, you have endorsements, right? You have good performance, and you're sincere. You endorse, you basically provide, you're associated with anything, any events and so forth, because you're an important person. So people invite you, isn't it, to endorse. People invite you to grace events because you're an important person. So things like that establish your credibility. Finding the right tone, as you can be too stuffy, too formal, right? For today's audiences, dear Miss Navarro, enclosed please find. That seems a bit too formal. Okay. Instead, you could be conversational. Here's the information, right? You request it during our phone conversation on Friday. You don't need to be, talking about enclosing anything. Unprofessional, too casual. So you can see here, you have like text language. Here's the 411 you requested. In my humble opinion, IMHO, isn't it? Yeah. FYI, you, written as a U. Later, that's just too informal for business communication. You have obsolete phrases that you shouldn't be using anymore because they're out of date, right? So we are in receipt of, we received, kindly advise, please let us know, attach, please find, enclose is, it has come to my attention, I've just learned, the undersigned, we, in due course, specify a time or date, yeah? Don't say in due course. I mean, when do you want this by? Permit me to say, just say whatever you need to say. Permit me to say. Pursuant to, just say whatever you need to say. In closing, we wish to inform you that, please be advised that, yeah, just say what you need to say. In active voice, the subject performs the action, helps make your writing more clear and concise to read. In passive voice, the subject receives the action, helps to create an impersonal tone when needed. So you can be more personalized, isn't it? The active voice the subject performs the action, makes your writing more clear and concise. In passive voice, you create a tone that's not so personal, yeah? That's indirect. So this is a checklist. Make sure you adapt to your audience. Make sure you compose your message well. Completing business messages. Fine-tune the content. You revise your message, evaluate the first draft. Fine-tune the content, as the first draft is rarely as tight, clear, and compelling as it needs to be. For important messages, schedule time to put your draft aside for a day or two before you begin the revision process. Ask yourselves when you evaluate your content, organization, style, and tone, is it accurate? Is it relevant to the audience? Is it enough to satisfy the reader? Is there a good balance between general information and specific information? Continue your evaluation by asking, are all the points covered in the most logical order? Do the most important ideas receive the most space? And are they placed in the most prominent positions? Would the message be more convincing if it were arranged in a different sequence? Are any points repeated unnecessarily? Are details grouped together logically, or are some still scattered through the document? So ask yourselves these questions, correct them where needed. Lists are effective tools, so you can use lists and bullets to clarify, emphasize, and it's easier for people to read as well when you do lists. Narratives, as you can see, are difficult to read. Now, this is business communication. You want to be efficient, right? You want to write efficiently in such a way where people can read it easily, yeah? Lists, you can see you have bullets, you have written, yeah, the points there, and people can read through very quickly. Narrative, you have to search for that information, so it's difficult to read. So better to write lists and bullets, and use bullets or numbering, right, rather than use narrative. So lists should be parallel, right? So you can't have a mixture of verb and noun phrases. For example, improve, identification, global market, issues regarding, yeah, improve is a verb, isn't it? Yeah, you're telling somebody to improve. We need to improve. Identification, global market, issues regarding, yeah, more to nouns. Parallel list items. So when you have all verb phrases, use them in the right form. So improving, ing, identifying, developing, resolving. If it's the infinitive verb, to improve, then put everything in the infinitive verb form. To improve, to identify, to develop, to resolve. A heading is a brief title that tells readers about the content of a major section, and subheadings are subsections within a major section. So you have heading functions as an organization for organization purposes, to organize everything nicely and for us to read better, easily, to highlight, give attention to certain parts, and for connection, right, through descriptive and informative headings. Now this is a checklist for revising business messages. Producing your message, the production quality of your message, the total effect of page or screen design, graphical elements, typography plays an important role in its effectiveness. So make sure you use the right typography, the right graphical elements, and the screen design, usually you leave it to your IT person. Designing for readability. Design affects readability. Design elements can improve message effectiveness. Visual design helps the document's tone and guides your readers through your message. To achieve an effective design, pay attention to consistency, balance, restraints, and detail, right? So have consistency, have balance, right? Balance all the different visual elements, yeah, well, there must be some kind of symmetry. I mean, this is for something that's easy on the eyes lah. Yeah, restraints, okay, you need to not be too overly detailed as well. Yeah, give enough detail, have the white space that you need. Proofreading your message. The types of details to look out for when proofreading include language errors, missing material, design errors, and typographical errors, right? So you need to make sure that all of this is correct, isn't it? Yeah, you are correct. You need to make sure that you shouldn't be making any errors, because then people will notice and it's going to be a big problem, of course. And when you typographical errors, the typos lah, the becomes TEH or something like that. So this is a checklist for proofing business messages. Look for writing errors, look for design and layout errors, look for production errors. Distributing your message. Consider costs, convenience, time, security, and privacy, right? So it's a document that is PNC, private and confidential, so you can't simply, perhaps you can't email it, you must print it and put it in an envelope and stamp PNC on it, right? And deliver by hand to the person, okay? If the audience needs something, the document fast, then you need to use a courier service, so you need to invest in that. So it will cost a lot, but you need to get it there in 3 days, for example. Convenience, what's convenient for the audience, right? If it's not PNC, then you can email perhaps the document, and they don't need anything in printed form, then you can just email the document, right? So it's fast, it's not costly, it's cheap, and of course, but security and privacy may be an issue, because there could be somebody forwarding this information to others and spreading it, and it can go viral, and is this what you want? So you've got to find the right ways to distribute your message. Yeah. All right. So that's it for today. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.